So
and you missed that, isn't it? But it won't be for much longer. Right, sorry, this isn't live yet. This is
I'm just gonna get a different chair.
I'm going live onto YouTube as we speak, isn't it? But we're live on YouTube. It won't be for much longer. Right, sorry, this isn't live yet. This is
I'm just gonna get a different chair.
I'm going live onto YouTube as we speak, isn't it? But we're live on YouTube. It won't be for much longer. Right, sorry, this isn't live yet. This is
I'm just gonna get a different chair.
I'm going live onto YouTube as we speak, isn't it? But
I'm going to make it
live on YouTube. It won't be for much longer. Right, sorry, this isn't live yet. This is
I'm just gonna get a different chair.
I'm going live onto YouTube as we speak, isn't it? Mute that. We're live on YouTube. I'm going to get going. So, introducing these two lovely ladies. I'm Reva Taylor, and welcome to those of you who are watching now or watching in future to Creative Light. This is the first online seminar we're hosting where we're going to speak to leading women across the arts to explore how creativity has helped them positively and personally. And refocus themselves or others in times of change and challenge. Today our light is shining on the world of creative writing, and we're joined by two fantastic female writers, Gemma Seltzer. Gemma, give yourself.
Hey, great to be here.
And Tessa Yates. Gemma is a writer and has presented her work throughout Europe and the UK at various festivals, including Latitude and on BBC Radio. She's also the founder of an inspiring creative writing platform called Write and Shine. And not only that, she is also the UK lead for the funding platform Kickstarter, which and her role focuses on the arts and culture. Tessa is a writer and illustrator of children's books. Tessa started the Happy Book Company in 2019. Is that right, Tessa?
2018.
Do jump in if I'm making
No, it's all good.
You correct me. Which makes children's books that show young people how to be happy with themselves. And a really lovely overlap here is that Tessa actually raised money to pursue this dream of hers using Kickstarter. So we'll go on to talk a little bit about that later. So diving in at the deep end, I think, talking about isolation and how that's treating you both. I see you've both been actually really, really busy. So I think we'll start with Tessa, and it's been an exciting week for you about a campaign.
Yeah, so my second book is called The Girl Who Walked to the Moon, and I launched on Kickstarter on Monday, so it's very fresh. So it's day 2 today, and it's going really, really well. I'm trying to raise money to get it printed. I did the same with my first book as well, which was really successful. And I chose to do this because I was hoping to, well, I'm still looking for a traditional publisher as well, but the world obviously being turned on its head at the moment, there's not a lot of new books being commissioned in the publishing world, so it's not the best time to be taking it by storm. And I really wanted to get this story out into the world because I just love this book. It's just so great, and it's just, I really, really want to share it with people. It's really, really apt for this time right now. It's all about making your dreams come true and taking the first step in that direction. And I just think now is just such the absolute gem of a time. Like never have we had this time before where people have extra time because they're at home, or so you're not going out and doing things, or you're not commuting or whatever, and so you can be putting that time towards doing something for making your dream come true. And I must admit, with the isolation, I really struggled in the first week. It changed all my plans and all my workshops were cancelled, and I was really angry, and then it managed to turn it around and realized all the things I can do, and making books and getting them out there being one of those. So I was like, right, Kickstarter, let's go. That is something I can do from home. So yeah, that's what me.
I think also I wanted to touch on your company name, which is the Happy Book Company, and talking about now, and I think a lot of people reflecting on life and what makes them happy. Can you tell us a little bit about how the Happy Book Company came about, its meaning and its focus on happiness, and what happiness means to you? Because I know you've been through your own personal journey over the last few years, and you have arrived at this point, which is really inspirational, I think, to a lot of people. So yeah, please do elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, I'd always realised that happiness is the ultimate aim of life, and I just didn't know how to be it, and was looking, and I found this amazing group of people in Peru. They live in the jungle called Tierra Mítica, and it's basically like a happiness school, and I learned everything I know from them about happiness. And basically it's just, they teach us about is agreeing with what is. So being happy is accepting things for as they are, not in a defeatist way. So I want to be the best version of myself and do fun things and make myself proud, but I'm going to recognize that I'm human, and everything, all my urges, all the things that I like doing, is just, that is the thing that is really beautiful about being human, that should be celebrated. And before, I found that I was always trying to be something that I'm naturally not. And so just helping kids to realize that they are just absolutely wonderful, just as they are, with all the imperfections and weirdness and all these different things that people are, that is good, and we can be happy about it and relax and not feel shame and not feel guilt. So that's a very brief where the Happy Book Company came from, but I suppose I kicked it off when I lost my dad, and I really struggled with that. I couldn't make sense of it at all. On one hand, I knew that people die, this is fine, and at the other time I was devastated, and I couldn't square the two together, and I actually learned to replace that with gratitude. I realized I was really sad I lost him because he was such a great dad, and but in that miserable dip in between, I had the biggest urge to do creative things I've ever had. I just couldn't do my regular job anymore. All I wanted to do was something that was meaningful, and I really, really wanted to create. So I ended up in a workshop, and was asked the question, what did I really like doing when I was little? And I said I love making books and little paper project things and comics and stuff like that. And so the workshop leader suggested, well, why don't you do that for a living? And it was someone just gave me permission to do what I'd always wanted to do. And I'm trying to think if the Happy Book Company itself was born on that day. I might have named it another day, but I knew I wanted to make books about happiness, and they're always autobiographical. I wrote today in a blog, I'm amazed that anybody ever writes not autobiographically, because I find I can only write what is true for me. But I suppose that's from obviously developing empathy and learning a lot about other people.
It's a question I was going to ask you both, actually. Are your works, and we'll go on to Gemma now as well, are your works autobiographical? Where does the inspiration come from?
Big question. So I guess I see the writing work I do as a writer is often on the page, or it's collaboratively. I make projects, for example, with older people in care settings, and also Write and Shine, the early morning program of writing activities that I run, which is really to help people express and realize their creative ideas. I also see that as part of my creative work. So yeah, I guess an answer to that question is, for all of those things, I bring my whole self to it. So I bring everything I've got, all of the baggage, the bad days. Sometimes I'm running sessions very early in the morning and I'm not, I haven't had my coffee. I bring all of that to the sessions. And I think, I bring myself to it. And I think that honesty means that people respond to it. And I think that's probably something that we all have in common. You bring your honesty to it, and then it becomes autobiographical. It creates connection with people. So in my writing, so in my fiction, yeah, I mean, everything is about us. We have to start with ourselves. And often when I'm facilitating writing workshops, I'll say that we start with ourselves. Like, where else would you start? Like, you have to start and see kind of how you feel about an idea and start writing to explore it a bit deeper. And then you might kind of find yourself going off in a different way. But yeah, I think we have to start with ourselves. We're the most interesting, we know ourselves more than we know anything else. So we have to start there. But I also love that Emily Dickinson quote about tell it at a slant. Like, you might have your truth, but it's not always possible just to put it out there, is it? Like, you can't always like take your heart and put it in front of people. So finding an angle on it sometimes is the way forward. So I definitely, my work comes from myself and it's autobiographical in that way, but I'm really interested in how you can just shift it slightly and offer a different angle on something.
Yeah. I wanted to touch a little bit more on Write and Shine, about what exactly you do, and also to talk about context and creativity, because Tessa's obviously commented on maybe it's a moment in time that inspires creativity, whether that's a life-changing experience, whether that's loss. From what I understand from Write and Shine, you put a big focus on it being a time of the day that actually inspires creativity, which I find fascinating. I'm, a singer-songwriter, and I find it very difficult to find those moments sometimes. So this answer might help me. What is the focus on early in the morning? How did you come to discover that? And again, what does Write and Shine? What is Write and Shine all about?
Oh yeah. Well, so Write and Shine is a program I set up about 4 or 5 years ago. That's creative writing workshops that happen early in the morning, and sometimes they start at 6, sometimes 7, sometimes slightly later, 8 or 9, and they're all about kind of gathering people in the morning light, because that's the best time to explore creativity. It's, you get up early to beat your inner critic before that voice in your head starts kind of telling you that you can't do things. You get up whilst the light is rising, and you can write whilst the sunrise kind of makes your paper glow. I would think it's the best time for thinking, for imagining. My personal practice is I've always got up early. I love getting up early. I love getting up, being the first person awake. So wherever I am, I try to be that person. I beat everybody else. Watching the sky, the light lift and the sky kind of begin its day. For me, it gives me a lot of energy. And I know there's artists and writers who believe the same. There's something about the force of joining the day as it begins that can be really powerful. So a few years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I collaborated with a photographer, and we created a project called 5 a.m. London, where we travelled to different parts of London at 5 a.m. So once a month, we would travel and arrive in different places to see what the city was like at 5 a.m. And I've always had a fascination with London anyway. I was born here and moved away and came back. I love unpeeling, seeing the different layers of the city. So at 5 a.m. all through the year, seeing kind of the Serpentine or the London Eye, all these kind of iconic places in London, which were less people, the light really different, a different kind of energy around the city. I found it really stimulating. We created a fictional blog called 5 a.m. London, and it had a great response. And I thought, I bet there's a lot of people out there who are interested. It's very aspirational, isn't it? It's aspirational to think, I'd love to be a morning person. I really kind of want to be productive and creative in the early morning. So after we'd shared Write and 5 a.m. London with the world, I started running early morning workshops and found there was just such a big appetite for them, and they've had an amazing momentum since then.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to participating in one of them.
Yes, I can't wait to come. Yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same, but in this unusual phase of isolation, we have more time on our hands. We're not doing the daily commute. We're not, out for drinks with friends, and I think we can sort of spare those extra moments and times for us.
I think the time feels different now. I don't necessarily have more time. Time feels different. I mean, I feel like we're all doing lots of caring and supporting and in touch with a lot of people in our lives. I think for now, this moment in time, I feel like creativity is such a powerful force in challenging circumstances. Like you were saying, Tessa, you turn to creativity, or you find that reassuring song or that film that you find really comforting, that poem that that really kind of holds a feeling for you. I feel, yeah, even if I guess time feels different for us all, people with care and responsibilities. I know my friends with children, are feeling like time is really precious. So offering early morning workshops, for example, feels like, yeah, some people have more time to come, and some people just that time in the morning is so precious at the moment. It's the only moment where they've got a bit of space to think.
Absolutely. How are you both managing your time and optimizing your creativity in this time? Has anything changed for you?
Personally, I feel like, so being creative and like working for yourself, you can work any time and as much as you want or as little as you want in a way. And so for me, for like knowing that I've done enough is a big thing for me. And it used to be like, well, I set my thing of like, I used to work in a co-working space, so I'd go and I'd work from 9 to 5, and then I know I've done enough, even if, because you have those creative days where you don't have any good output and you don't end up with anything you like, and then you can just sit in front of some words, and I'll be writing like a 4-line verse, and I'll just do 2 of those in one day, and I feel like if I didn't have that 9 to 5 structure, I'd be like, oh, I've not done enough. So taking that away, I guess I've just tried to keep that as much as possible, but that's just made me realize it's more about like how much I'm enjoying it. Actually, I think I realized today, like if I'm really enjoying myself, then I'm doing something good, and I'm working hard, and I'm really into it, and I'm into the flow. So I'm trying to actually just get into stuff more, and like really listening to my body. Like Gemma saying she really likes doing things in the morning early. There's definitely like, yeah, times of day when I'm better as well. Like I'm super creative just before dinner and really good before lunch. And the kind of time just after lunch is really rubbish. And so it's sort of like finding tasks to do at different times of day that really, really suit me. And I think I hadn't really listened to my own body that much before, because I was so rigidly sticking to this, must do this, this is enough. And yeah, just trying to enjoy it more, because I'm not getting my enjoyment from going out and seeing friends. So it's like, okay, I'll really indulge in my work and using nice like art materials if I'm doing some art, or like really, really get into my writing, put some great music on, and like make the whole experience of work as great as possible. Like even organizing my space behind me, like
very important.
Nice plants down from another room. And yeah, it's yeah, I'm finding it like a bit of structure, but now I'm actually trying to let myself just loosen into it and enjoy it a bit more, now that I know that I can work at home.
Absolutely. What about you, Gemma?
Yeah, I think really similar. Like, I mean, it's such a strange, unsettling, uncertain time, and the last couple of weeks, all our routines and plans have completely changed. So we've had this period of, recalibrating and working out what we can do, what things we can let go of, who we need to be looking out for, like how we can look after ourselves. Yeah, I definitely haven't had the focus that I like to have. It's been really hard to concentrate and not get totally absorbed. Everything is happening in our computers, so it's really hard to then step away from that. I mean, one of the things that I'm finding really beautiful about our Write and Shine program that we're now running all our sessions virtually. It's really nice to kind of have the computer, and then kind of I encourage everyone to kind of turn away from the screen with your notebook by the side of you. So you've got the kind of connection with the community, but you are writing by hand, so you have that really lovely connection, your hand and your heart. And when you start, the gesture of writing can be really powerful and bring up memories and connections, and you just get the kind of private space on your page and let the ideas flow, but you're still part of a group of people. So the two things, I'm finding that really powerful for me, and the people who come along to the sessions as well. You've got your individual, private, personal space, which you really need right now to reflect and think about where we are, how you're reacting to it, try and digest what's going on in the world. But you've got people as well, the people in your computer to connect with. So for me, I'm that's something that's really helping. Still writing, but having a community of people who are, you know, gathering early and, you know, writing together.
Yeah, and I think that's the power of creativity and art. It's physical, isn't it? And I know I've been guilty this last week, and I found it challenging. You know, looking at my screen time at the end of the week. My goodness, that's how much time. But there's no other alternative. But yes, I think we all need to learn how to manage digital detox in our days. Sorry, Tessa, were you about to say something?
I was just gonna say, I'm so impressed at how Gemma's like one of those people who really got me going, like inspired me to like get my stuff together when I was flailing a little bit, that you just like put everything's online and there's this amazing subscription service and you were sending out beautiful parcels to people with beautiful things to use when they're writing. I was just like, oh, it just really like warmed my heart that you'd done that, and like that's not easy to do as well, and it looks super professional and just super slick and great, and you're doing it already as like, wow, okay, if people can do this and adapt this quickly, like so can I. It really keeps you going and thinks like, no, I'm not going to watch Sex and the City all day on the TV.
Oh yeah, I'm doing that as well, don't worry, like, yeah.
But I think it's been amazing to see actually how quickly people have adapted. Changed, you know, their routines and are learning new skills, and yeah, that's been quite fascinating to watch, I think, and it'll be interesting to see how over the next few weeks that changes and evolves too.
Have you been doing a lot more writing, Reba, given the time? Or
do you know what, I'm going into that phase now, and the last few weeks for me, I've had, you know, the release coming out, and it's been kind of head down, but I'm moving into writing phase, getting the second part of the album ready, which again has had its challenges, because I'm not going to be able to go into a studio and record with producers. At the end of it, we don't know, you know, what the finished date is on this. So yes, I'm going to be writing, but it's just how I'm going to be recording the material is going to be an interesting thing, and maybe I'm going to have to adapt, and maybe I'm going to have to learn how all of that is done. So yeah, maybe I'll be acquiring a new skill. But Tessa, I wanted to come back and ask you about your focus on children. Why have you catered your books for the younger generation?
It's really interesting because when I started it and this idea came up in this workshop, I was actually a school teacher and I was not loving it at the time, and the suggestion came out, and I had said just before the suggestion also, I do not want to work with children anymore, I'm done with it, I just want to do something with adults and just like getting as far away from a school environment as possible, and then realised like it didn't have to be that way. And so the part of the appeal of children's books, in particular picture books, is that I love illustrating, and a big part of writing for me is the interplay of pictures and words. So I do it as quite an iterative process. So when I'm writing a story, actually it starts as a character drawing, and then that character has like, I'll subconsciously put some characteristics into it and they just sing off a page, and then a story comes from that. And then I'll be writing the story and maybe sketching things at the same time as I'm thinking that, oh, that would look cool and I'd love a picture that showed that, and then those pictures then feed into the writing, and so it goes round and round and round. And I really love that process. I think I always used to like, when I was little, encyclopedias. I loved pictures with like labels on and how the words would enhance the image and vice versa, but they needed to work together. So children's books were just perfect for me for that. And I'm realizing as time goes on, like how brilliantly it like brings all my skills together. So I spent 5 years in schools teaching. So now one of my favorite things to do is go into schools with my books and read stories. And like, I think it's one of the things that some children's authors find the scariest, because it's like a group of kids in a room and it's like, oh, that's my comfort zone, very nice. So yeah, it's a lovely marrying of skills, and then that's nice as a lone worker to go out into a school and like work with lots of people for a few days. So
there's something also to be said for inspiring a younger generation to be happy. and teaching, you know, happiness from a young age. Was that in kind of like your mindset when you?
I'll be honest, it's not top of my list, but it's a bonus knowing that I'm helping kids to understand these things better. But it's funny, I think when I write, I'm writing actually for people just like me. I'm actually hoping that parents will read it and they'll feel the stories just as much as their kids do. Yeah. And so yeah, because actually I think kids have it. Like, I think back to my 5-year-old self, she's like a really good talisman for me. And like, I think, what would she think? And she's got it together. Like, she knew what she was doing. My 5-year-old was like super powerful. I found some of my art books the other day and my creative writing books, and I'd written some story for a CFAX competition. And I remember genuinely believing I was going to win that competition. And I read what I wrote, and it was like, it wasn't rubbish, but it wasn't anything like spectacular literature or anything. But I so believed in myself, and then that just disappears somewhere along the way. And so I guess what I want to do is just like keep that. Although again, I'm just going from my experience as a kid who had it together, and not all kids will have it together, and maybe kids don't have it together as much now as they used to do. And so yeah, they are stories for people. And I mean, it's told in a childish way, but I couldn't tell you directly exactly how they sing to children, other than them just enjoying them as stories. I don't think they reflect on them, but I'd hope that as a story that they might learn to love in their childhood, that it's something they can come back to if they ever don't know what they're doing and they do need it. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Gemma now, and dig a little bit into one of her works, Speak to Strangers.
Okay.
Which is a compilation of 100-word short stories. Obviously, a really original way to approach creative writing. What was the inspiration for that?
Speak to Strangers. So Speak to Strangers was a project I developed in about 2010, so kind of 10 years ago. And at that time, and I'm kind of in this cycle now, at that time I was meeting new people every day, much like this. So I was, my work and, working as a writer and working kind of out and about in the world. I was meeting different people, and I love those moments when you have a connection with somebody, even if it's very fleeting, like you just have a moment, you share a look, or you have a conversation. And I wanted to do something with that experience. And another kind of angle on it is I just love London. I love cities, and I'm really interested in how cities shape our experience, how, we as women navigate cities, how it is that the places that we live and work feed us and enable us. We become the product of those places that we are, and particularly cities. I get a lot of energy from being in cities and walking in cities. So I wanted to capture these fleeting moments with random people that I met, and tell the story of the city as I was experiencing it. So yeah, for 100 days, I met 100 strangers and wrote 100-word short stories in response. So they were fictionalized versions of the encounter, but all based on reality. So in that, we talked earlier about like how autobiographical. So they were all based on a real moment, kind of an everyday experience that I had, but I turned them into more of a fictional pieces. Yeah, so I did it for 100 days, and then it was picked up by a publisher, and it came out a year or so later as a collection of stories. And once I'd done it for those 100 days, I think I was a little bit addicted to conversations. I'm interested in like, how do you create the conditions for great conversation? I mean, it's what we're all eager for, isn't it? Like having a really great conversation where one person's listening really beautifully and the other person's able to express themselves fully. And I think a lot about that. What do you need for a good conversation, for thinking clearly, for creativity? So I was really keen on that when I was doing Speak to Strangers, and I was invited to take the project around the country. So I did Speak to Strangers in Manchester and in Birmingham, and then I followed the Olympic torch relay in 2012, speaking to strangers on the route as well. And then the project culminated in a commission from the Tate Modern, where I was outside, and I was in a piece of within a piece of public art, which was in fact a park outside the Tate Modern in London, and invited people to talk to me about their experiences, and I turned it into fiction. So I did Speak to Strangers was kind of a 5-year project in the end. Once I'd had one conversation with strangers, just kept on going. So for about 5 years, I did different versions of the Speak to Strangers project, which is good conversation, and then trying to capture that feeling that you have. You just might have a really brief conversation with somebody, or you meet somebody and you've got something in common, or you get somewhere in the conversation. And I wanted to find a way of capturing that in words, because it's so fleeting. It can happen, you might speak to somebody on the bus or in the supermarket, and then it's gone. That moment's completely gone. So in that writing project, I was keen to try and just hold it for a moment and feel it, and then offer it back into the world as a story.
Fascinating. And actually, on that, writing, creative writing, the arts in general can be quite a solitary life. And I think there's this is why This Woman's Heart was set up. Similarly, Write and Shine, a community for artists is so important, and to find support from other like-minded individuals. Have you ever faced a challenge of feeling alone in what you do and unsupported? Was there a time that you went through in your life where you didn't quite feel the support perhaps that you do now?
Absolutely, frequently. I think one of the reasons I set up communities is because I don't necessarily see myself reflected in the communities around me. So one of the reasons I set up Write and Shine is because the creative writing world can be very exclusive. It can feel like you have to have a certain education or a certain background. You have to even have, even go to creative writing workshops. Sometimes you feel like you need a very strong publishing track record. And the kind of work I make doesn't always exist on the page. And sometimes if I'm talking about what it means to be a writer, or about my writing life, I have had books published and pamphlets published, but the work I'm most proud of is kind of intangible. Like, it's the work I do in care homes with older adults, co-creating poetry projects. Nobody sees it, but it's the most powerful and radical and brilliant and creative work I do. So I sometimes feel like I have nowhere to put that when I talk about myself as a writer, and I talk about these different things. I also I've written virtual reality films, I've written for radio, and these are other different bits of being a writer. So, one of the things I really value with both Write and Shine and a writing group that I'm now part of, is being able to gather a really diverse range of people together. So acknowledging that my experiences, there isn't one set path to being a creative. Well, you'll both know this. Like, it's not like you go to, you follow a very distinct path. We're all on our own journey. Sometimes it feels like the communities we want to be part of, like for me, like the publishing community or the creative writing community, can feel like you're either in or you're out. So Write and Shine is great because one of the things we don't do is share our work in progress, which is quite unusual in a writing workshop, but it does make us unique in that way. And it's in part because the morning's the best time to imagine and be creative, and you're using the side of your brain that can just generate ideas. And you can use the morning before the other side of your brain kicks in, that needs to kind of edit and tell you kind of, to put things in order. So I really love the writing workshops as a space to be really free and liberated, and not critique our work, but to value the process of creativity. And sometimes, I've been to so many writing workshops, and often you're writing in order to be, to share it or to publish it. And for me, I just want to get rid of that. Like, what does it mean to create work? Because it's amazing to be creative, and it's powerful and it's energizing. I could talk about this for a long time, but the writing workshops that I'm in and that I've set up often take out that critical part, because for me, I've got other bits of my life where I can work with editors, I can be, gain a criticism, or, can look at the craft in great detail. But there's very few spaces, I thought, where you can just come to make work and be creative and not worry, you know, because it's so easy, isn't it, for your confidence to be knocked. Someone will give you a look or critique your work and you've lost your momentum. So yeah, I've lost confidence myself when it's been like a very critical environment, and I know it's really valuable for people just to come and take the first steps and explore their creativity in a really inclusive, you know, friendly environment that also is light. Well, like Tessa, you were saying, like happy, joyful, light. There's also great value in just, you know, creating a space that's fun and nice and you can enjoy the creativity rather than feeling like it's a slog. So creating these spaces that mean you delight in your work is really important to me, and I've set them up because I haven't found them myself.
Yeah, and reward and value, I think, take so many different forms when it comes to creativity. You know,
Yeah,
it's not financial. It's the reward, the feeling that you get when you create. It's bringing joy to other people. It's all of those things. And on that, I wanted to move on to Kickstarter, because obviously that is a reward in itself. You know, when you achieve your goals, achieve your goals there, but that is also other people valuing your work, which must have been an amazing feeling for you, Tessa, on your first book. So I just wanted to talk a bit about Kickstarter, and you know, the options open for creatives, and maybe taking sort of a seed idea or a developed idea, and how you can take those from A to B, to publishing your work, to getting eyes on your work. How can Kickstarter enable that for writers?
I'm Kickstarter. I'm so grateful for that as a platform. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for Kickstarter right now. It's such a hurdle going from zero to having a children's book published by a traditional publisher. I think it probably is like a 2 to 4 year like practice and like whole process for people, even as trained illustrators or practiced authors, and just to be able to make something and then 6 months later put it out there, and for people to get it a couple of months after that is just like, yeah, thank you. I love it so much. Like, I think my first book wouldn't even be on the shelf right now if it wasn't for Kickstarter. And so I guess because I've sort of taken myself to writing school, and like I didn't do a creative course at university. I was a teacher before, I was an accountant before that. I've had so many career changes, and it helps bridge that gap. Like, my stuff is very real and it is brilliant, and like people enjoy it so much. It might not fit into a pigeonhole or something that a publisher is looking for, because, and like I understand where publishers are coming from, because you know they've got, it's really risky to what books you're going to back and who you're going to invest in and what is going to sell. So I can see that they stick with what, you know, is safe. And so Kickstarter is a great place, I guess, to take something new and take something and be a bit risky. And it's really personal, you know, like my book is exactly how I want it to be. Yeah, it's just freaking fantastic. It looks so good.
I'm really enjoying this. It's great.
I'm assuming, Gemma, not exclusive. It's open to anybody who...
Yeah, so I lead on Kickstarter's work in the UK. So if people don't know, Kickstarter is a funding platform for creative projects. So everything from children's books to albums, plays, comics, design and tech, all come to life through the direct support of individuals. It's a really robust, diverse community. I think, you know, at any given moment there are like 4,000 projects seeking support. And you know, the value of it is, like you've said, Tessa, you get full creative autonomy over what you're doing. So you decide when is the time to share your work, you decide kind of what it looks like, and you can build a community around your ideas and find like-minded individuals who care about your work and care about creativity as much as you do. So you know, with publishing projects, I mean, I think so many, like thousands and thousands of projects have come to life on Kickstarter in the publishing category, from zines and books, anthologies, all kinds of things. And I think, it's not the case that Kickstarter is one option and then you can't do anything else. I think it's part of the story of being a creative person, that you might use Kickstarter for one of your books like you've done, Tessa, and then you might kind of approach a different kind of publishing, a publisher for something else you're doing. I think it's a great way to raise funds and build a community around what you're doing, and it's kind of one of the tools that we as creatives have. It's never going to be everything, but it's kind of part of the story and part of how you want to share your work with the world. And because it's such a huge platform, 17 or 18 million people have ever backed a Kickstarter project. So you as a creative, your project, whether it's a tiny little zine to kind of a huge games project, you have a chance to put it in front of a very eager creative community who care about artistic endeavor and want to see new ideas in the world. So the opportunity there is really big.
I think that people really like to make the connection between the book or the art and the artist, and I found that the thing that has sold my books the most is telling my story and being like, it felt almost like I was really riffing, like being really brutally honest at first. So I was writing some blogs and posts about why I made each book and where it come from in my life, and getting messages from people saying, I'm crying and I'm like really feeling you. And it's just like, I think people like knowing where stuff's come from. Like, you like to know who grew your food, and you like to know, a bit of the story behind, even if you went to a restaurant, it'd be great to know, why they set up that restaurant. We love stories as people, and I think Kickstarter helps to tell the creator story when that gets lost a little bit.
I think it's all built on, all of the work we're doing is built on honesty and transparency. It's, you get a book in your hands and you don't always know how it got there, do you? You don't know all the author's journey, you don't know their challenges, you don't know how the book was made. With something like Kickstarter, the platform encourages you to share your process. So like you're saying, like updating people on what you're doing and what your story is, like anything, any issues that you face along the way, like people go on the journey with you to make something new in the world. They don't get the finished item, without kind of investing in supporting you to make it happen. One of the things I find really exciting or just joyful about Kickstarter is that people don't necessarily get anything in response. There's a high number of people just back projects because they believe in it. They don't necessarily want the book or the or tickets to the show or the film or anything. They back it because they see there's value in creative work, and they join you on the journey to make it happen, and join you in the kind of risks and the things along the way. And it relates back to what we were saying earlier, just about how being creative is quite a unique and individual path that we're on. You can, we're at risk of isolation, we're at risk of not earning enough money to pursue our endeavors. You can end up creating work and feeling like you're just doing it, you don't know why you're doing it, but actually something like the Kickstarter platform is really valuable for projects where you kind of want to engage people in the process, like open up your heart, like you say, open up your your studio where you work. I really love all that stuff. Like Tessa, I love seeing like in your room, like your behind the scenes stuff. It's like, that's another way of we can be really honest with each other. What does it really look like to make work? What does it really look like to be up really early and just really struggling with things, or like working late into the night because you've got a deadline to meet? All of these things start telling the story of what it's really like to be an artist. And I think everybody's got an eagerness for understanding, getting close to the creative process, getting close to creative people is really energizing. Like, it's very real.
Well, I've got a final few questions for you, or some quick fire questions. But this has been great, guys. Thank you. What can the audience expect from you both next? Are there any other exciting projects in the pipeline? Anything to promote?
Other than my current Kickstarter, which is live, called The Girl Who Walks to the
A
Moon.
holiday, please.
I will, after this Kickstarter, be making a sequel to my first book, which is called Squirrel and the Three Bears. So I think it's going to be called The Selfish Squirrel. So same characters from that one. Lots of making books for me in this time, as well as every day at 3 o'clock, I do in very much the same spirit as Gemma does with her writing, come and have fun, be like a 5-year-old and draw something with me. Normally some like pattern drawing or something like, it's not professional art. Anyone can do it with paper and pencils and felt tips, and it's just about having fun and creating something. So that is currently on Instagram, going on YouTube hopefully tomorrow. And that's it from me, I think.
I'll get you to promote your platforms now, actually, and of course how people can find you on Kickstarter.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for me, I've moved our platform, our Write and Shine season, our spring season. We've moved it online, so our face-to-face workshops are happening online. I really still believe that creativity matters so much in these difficult, these challenging times, and creativity is something that can lift our spirits and enhance our energy and help us create connections with each other. So I'm really glad to be able to offer this, weekly program of workshops. We rise early at 7:15. Bring your own cup of tea, and we run 90-minute workshops early in the morning. So that's happening. And I guess the other thing I'd want to share is I've done some just kind of inner work and kind of thinking about my practice as a writer. And I've just launched a new website. So I'm no longer gemmaseltzer.co.uk. I'm gemmaseltzer.com. And I have I'm .com. But I've done some work just thinking about how to bring all the different strands of my activity together. Like, I'm doing lots of different things, so many great projects, and I'm kind of moving where my interest is. So yeah, like I said, I'm working with older people, I'm doing Write and Shine, and I make more kind of digital literature, like the virtual reality, and Speak to Strangers began life online. Anyway, I've brought it all together in a new website, and at the heart of it, I've just come to the realization that listening and supporting others is really at the heart of everything I'm doing as a writer. So gemmaseltzer.com is the place where it all is, but I'm sharing it because I'd love to kind of put it out in the world, but also every so often having these moments where you just take stock, and it feels like now is a good moment to, we're pausing a bit, our plans have slightly been thwarted, taking these moments to reflect and think about who you are, what you're doing, what you're putting out in the world as a creative. I'm finding that really valuable. So I'm glad, to have pulled those strands together, as I say, in the new website.
Fantastic. We'll check it out. Any parting advice for those who are currently writing? Words of wisdom, any encouragement you can offer?
Writing every day is a great practice, or whatever you're doing, whether it's drawing, making music, reading, make yourself do it every day. That just gets you at a table, gets it going, and then takes the pressure off the result. And then it's amazing what comes out.
Yeah, it's something that I'm told as a songwriter, you meant to write every day. Make mistakes, because you write 50 songs and only one strikes the right chord. So I can resonate with that totally.
Yeah, I agree. Being a bad writer is great. I also I guess two things that I think are really important to progress our work as writers. The value of a timed exercise. I swear by it. If you're writing every day, just setting a timer for 10 minutes, because you can really trick yourself into writing a lot more. You set it for 10 minutes, we set it for 5 minutes, and then you write on a writing prompt, and then you do another one for 10 minutes. And all you've got to do is write within that time frame, within those parameters, and then you can go off and do everything that you really want to do, which is watching Netflix and looking out the window. Do everything else, but you've just got that precious time where you've got the timed exercise and you start generating material. So that's kind of my first. And the second is, I think, just holding on to the belief that you've got everything you need right now to be the best writer you can be. There's so much stimulus around us. Let the stuff of life find a way in your writing, cultivating a habit of noticing things around you, I mean, I use a lot of like maps and old photos and stuff I find in charity shops and the articles from the newspaper, just using the things we've got around us, the seasonal changes, the light from the window. We've got it all around us. It's just kind of having an openness and letting that in and be the stimulus for your writing.
Fantastic. Now some quick fire questions, just 3 of them.
Oh.
1-word answers. I'll start with Tessa on the first one. I am most creative when I am switched on or switched off.
Switched off. Not thinking.
Okay. Gemma.
You're switched off.
Switched off.
Laptop closed, switched off, in the zone.
Okay. If I were not a writer, I would be a Tessa.
Illustrator.
Cloud gazer.
Cloud gazer. I like it. And finally, I keep creative for who or what?
Me.
Yeah. Me, and am I allowed more than one answer?
Go on then.
Me, of course, like once we reach our full potential and once we kind of feel the energy of creativity ourselves, we can offer that into the world. So yeah, me first, and then to others. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. This has been great.
Thank you so much.
Do you want to just promote your channels quickly? And again, Tessa, do say how people can follow you on Kickstarter and your journey and
yeah, my one-stop shop for everything is www.thehappybookcompany.com. You can find me on Instagram at happybookcompany, and my Kickstarter, if you search for The Girl Who Walked to the Moon, you'll find me there on Kickstarter. So thehappybookcompany.com, best place.
Fantastic.
And for me, this new website, so seltzer.com, so my full name.com, and that's where you'd find links to Write and Shine and the other projects I've done. Yeah.
Fantastic, and I'll pop those onto the This Woman's Heart channel today as well. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for those who've tuned in, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.